pretend like you moved on, but you're actually just obsessed with death.
This time, he's more dangerous.
He killed my daughter.
I will kill him.
Fans are gonna lose their fucking minds.
You heard it up top. We are once again returning to Haddonfield, Illinois, as we celebrate that spooky night that comes once a year. But along with that night comes Michael Myers. Because we're talking Halloween Ends here on Normies Like Us with your hosts, Sheriff Colin.
You know, low-hanging fruit, Mike Myers.
Perfect. And this is J. Cobb Lee Curtis.
Hey, I like that.
Not a character, but you know.
I love that silver hair. You look great tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Cherry blossoms.
Right in your book. Yep. Very good. So we're talking the conclusion of the David Gordon Green Halloween sequel trilogy that disregards all other Halloween sequels. You know, so it's just the original movie and these three. This is the big wrap-up. And last year we talked every single Halloween movie, right? So, you know, how was that for you last year? Kind of bring listeners up to speed. I had never seen all of them, but we did a whole marathon, and now we're here to look at the, quote, end of this franchise. Jacob?
And
that's right.
Just now Halloween's a big deal.
It is.
For this podcast.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, we'll get into the review of this movie, but we were talking about, you know, spooky stuff, Texas Chainsaw, you know, and stuff, Pinhead, Hellraiser. And then I'm thinking of all the horror franchises that have been around forever, it feels like Halloween was the one that was in the best shape, I say, you know, in 2022. It had the most kind of cultural significance still. It had kind of new movies coming out that were, you know, maybe mixed, but they were in the conversation. So we'll review this latest one, but Halloween does feel like it has kind of a leg up on brand recognition compared to some of these other franchises.
For sure.
Yeah, and Spooktober continues on this podcast, as you're saying as well. We're continuing covering horror movie stuff. And like you're saying, Mike, Halloween 2018 kind of kicked us into where we are now, where it did embolden these people to go, whoa, what's the deal with the rights to Leatherface? Is there anything we can scramble and do right now? Is there, you know, anything on the planet? And we got these Lega sequels, you know, this entire genre that has sort of been micro-created coming out. Again, we're going to talk. But Halloween, it's coming from the place of Halloween, which we talked about. I mean, we did Leatherface, Mike, where we said, that's not the progenitor. Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw kind of is because it comes first. But we mentioned the heights that Halloween brings to this genre, of course.
It lays the slasher template down, which Texas Chainsaw did not do, but kind of that an indie horror movie can make a splash, let's say. That's a Texas thing, but then this really set the template, and pretty much every franchise after has been a derivative of it. So, you know, we're back in Haddonfield. Jacob, how do you feel about Halloween as a franchise?
Well, you know, Normies, go back and listen to our episode last year. I'd recommend that.
13 movies we watched or something.
Yeah.
That's right.
If you want to know all our detailed opinions of those movies.
It's maybe 3 hours long. Is that true?
Probably. It was kind of a mega episode for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have, you know, I love the original, obviously. Mixed feelings about a lot of the sequels, as in any horror franchise that has, you know, so many sequels. But there's some good ones in there, I think. We have some mixed opinions about certain eras, like the Rob Zombie era, I guess.
And the Thorn era, maybe, or Halloween 3 being very good.
Well, we all agree on that one.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, Halloween 3, classic, but
underrated.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, we're here to talk the latest Halloween. I say, you know, there's no delay. Halloween comes once a year, trick or treat, Normies. Let's hit it. Head over to the Myers house and talk Halloween Ends.
We're back. We're talking Halloween Ends here on Normies Like Us. But before we get to the end, ooh, look at that spooky shirt Mike's rocking right now, Halloween style. For our viewers on YouTube, check that out. But before we get to the end of Halloween Ends, let's talk a little bit about the history. So Mike alluded to it up top. This particular film series, of course, in these horror episodes we do on Normies Like Us, where we have to be like, this is this timeline we're in, this is this time we're in. This is Halloween's the OG franchise with that, because truly, Jacob, you said it, there are 15 different versions of them. We all feel 15 different ways.
Right.
The ones we're going to talk about today that quote unquote are impacted are the original 1978 film Halloween. for some reason not Halloween 2. Do we know why? I guess just because Ben Traynor is still like
Well,
alive. Why does
Halloween
it
2
discard
is
Halloween 2?
where it's revealed that Laurie Strode is Michael Myers'
Oh,
sister.
and they just don't
which
want any of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Of
And
course,
I think that's smart.
Jacob, of course. That
Yeah.
that absolutely makes sense. So scrap that. So we cut literally just from the first one to a remake called 2018 Halloween. And that's what we said. It's this Lego sequel. It's
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
that thing happened. We're gonna quote unquote take the originals and basically kind of make the movie again in modern day.
Yeah, you get the Strode family, but now there's, a daughter and a granddaughter, and Jamie Lee Curtis is kind of recluse, Laurie Strode, but the plot beats are the same as the first one. Michael gets out, goes on a rampage, face off. Somehow he escapes. They didn't shoot him 6 times, but he that's that
There's
one.
a crazy doctor.
Yeah, there is a crazy doctor. Then Halloween Ends is the sequel, and that's 2020, right?
Halloween Kills.
Halloween Kills 2020.
Evil
Lives up
Dies
to its
Tonight.
name. Evil Dies Tonight.
Halloween, quote unquote, Evil Dies Tonight is what it's called.
Yeah,
Yes.
but tonight, and maybe 4 years later. But yeah, Evil Dies Tonight. 2020.
That one.
It's got the biggest body count, but it has a lot of issues plot-wise. Yeah.
Yeah, the main thing I remember about that one is the kid Tommy as a grown-up kind of getting a gang of people to try to take on Michael Myers, and then them all getting like murdered immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of kill scenes and stuff. Which
Well,
which were
Jacob, I remember a large group of people certainly saying something. Now, what is it that they were chanting? Now, that is eluding to me. Was it something about evil? And what was it
Evil
doing?
Kills Tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Evil is no more once the eve is done.
Once again.
Yeah, once the eve is past, evil shan't be. But yeah, they lead him up. Tommy Doyle's the kid that Laurie was babysitting, right? In the
Yes.
first
Not Paul
movie.
Rudd.
Not Paul Rudd. There's probably a
Unfortunately.
steel pipe in this. At least that's a reference to the Paul Rudd, obviously,
Right.
defeating Michael Myers. But mixed reception on that plotting, and surprise, evil doesn't die, and there's a big jump scare where he kills Laurie's daughter, and then ... 4 years later is where Ends comes up. But I did want to highlight there was originally a plan to have maybe just 2 movies, and it would be spanning over the same single evening, kind of like Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 Classic Edition. Then that's at some point became 3. But I like the idea of 3 movies over the arc of one night just as a thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's not what we get.
That's interesting. I mean, the first 2, don't they take place like right after, like Halloween Kills,
Mhm.
like right after
do.
Halloween, basically?
And I believe
And
there's
then
some...
we have a time jump.
Yeah, I think there was something with the pandemic where they couldn't really shoot it at that same time or whatever, so they decided to push it, which I think does affect the plotting of this, and the way it fits in as a trilogy. We'll talk more when we get into the movie proper, but
Yeah.
Yes. Let's just say real quick, where are we? So before we go into this promised conclusion, we're like, it's ramping up. It's been only a year since we saw the last film. We saw Kills, where were you with that? But how have you been feeling about these David Gordon Green films so far, Mike?
I kind of liked him. I'm more charitable, I even think, towards Halloween Kills than a lot of people. Maybe just because it's campy. But I'm fine with them. And I think they're my favorite timeline. But there are kind of, with the new movie, and we'll get into it, they're not really a very tight trilogy. I kind of have to look at each one in a vacuum, regardless, so.
Yeah, I kind of liken this trilogy in a lot of ways to the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where it starts off with a sort of rehash legacy remake kind of, right, with Halloween, which I like probably the most out of these 3. And I probably liked each one consecutively less in this trilogy.
The box office would agree, I think.
Which is a little different for me for Star Wars, because I like Last Jedi, but I think maybe Halloween Kills is
I think actually the most different, I would say. In that way, it's similar to...
Yeah.
Well, I think Halloween Ends is actually the Last Jedi of this trilogy, because it tries to do different things.
And so maybe Halloween Kills is the rise of Star Wars, because it's just too much.
It's just
too
goofy.
fast and goofy. Yeah. Maybe.
Very possibly, yeah. But so I kind of see it in the same way as that.
They're all flawed in some way, but interesting still. But Colin, how do you feel
Like
about
the
this
first one-
DDG trilogy?
Yeah.
Well, I just love what Jacob just said. And was that 2017 Force Awakens? Because maybe
15, I
that
believe.
trumps
2015. Yeah.
20, so that's the
Last
legacy
Jedi was 17.
creator. That is the reason we even have Halloween.
That's a
I
template.
guarantee you,
Yep.
Jacob. I am into these. That first one, I'll be honest with you. Host Joe, who's not with us, has been saying off pod that he thinks the order of these are screwed up. I disagree with that because I think the twist of the first film to be, yes, I'm presenting as this lion, but really I'm kind of an old coot and I'm alone and I guess I'm just gonna die here. Just kidding, it was all a trap, Michael. Die now. I think that's super effective. And when I watch that, I'm like, this movie's good. The performances across the board are good. It's got an interesting story, interesting character work. I like where they put everybody. I like where they end up. And Kills is just that thing where, like, I should say, haven't seen the extended cut, which seems to be out there, and I guess seems to be much better, quote unquote. I don't know.
Haven't seen it either.
Fan reaction to all of these is just really across the board. But mine to Kills is like, when I think about that movie, I think of like a 67-year-old man on the ground while 20 people beat him up with pipes, and that movie ends with him getting away from those people.
He's pure evil.
Right.
Did you
And
not
then
listen
just
to
like-
Loomis?
Like, you fools, you couldn't beat up my grandfather. You couldn't beat up a guy who could like barely get away from you. I just remember that scene where he like grabs somebody's weapon as they're about to kill him, and it just turns into a bloodbath where I'm like, this is ridiculous. And of course, I mean, it's got to be said, the reveal that Michael is not interested in the girls.
Yeah.
It's not a
He's not
throne
interested
obsession.
in Lori.
Mm-mm.
Well,
It's not a sex obsession. That what he wants to do, Jacob, is go to his sister's room and
look
stare
out the
out her
window.
window.
Yes.
Because that is what makes him feel really good. That is where I'm like, I maybe don't even like any of the Halloween
So,
movies.
Oh.
you think
Well,
if they
I
would have
like
had
the,
different... Well, I'm saying if they switched
go ahead.
bedrooms as children, he never probably would have killed her. He would have been in the perfect spot. Yeah.
Hey, just be obsessed.
He just wanted that
what
room.
what I do like about the first one is that, and this is why I don't think it can be. So another thing that Joe was saying was that he would have connected it to the H2O timeline and just had the granddaughter be the daughter of
Josh Hartnett
in that
Right.
movie. The reason you can't do that is because the big difference in this one is that obviously the sister connection, but also the idea that Michael Myers is obsessed with Laurie Strode. Turns out in this one, she's actually obsessed with him, right? And so she thinks he's obsessed with her, but she's actually not. It was a totally random occurrence that he chose her
and
and
she
her friends.
cannot let go of it.
And I like that
she is
change.
damaged.
And I
Jacob.
like
that's brilliant.
about the first one, and that continues into the other two as well. But I like that idea.
Is
Yeah.
H2O tied to 2? Is there family in that one as well? H2O is
I
my
don't think
favorite
2
timeline.
Yeah, I think it is connected to 2, but it doesn't really matter as
Okay.
much.
But
It's
the
just
sister
the
connection- Yeah, but H2O is the best ending up to this point until they made that cop switch. Like the ending of H2O, if that was the end of it, it would be great. But then they're like, oh, we put a mask and they retcon it and whatever.
Well, Resurrection just sucks, so they should have just stopped at H2O.
So stop at
Like,
H2O, those
You
three.
you bastards! You break my heart.
But
when you say that.
I'm sorry.
So, I think some of the ideas with David Gordon Green trilogy are interesting with where they take these characters. And I guess now, maybe before we, let's say, rank the DGG, whatever at the end, let's talk about the new one. Full spoilers. We're going to be talking Halloween Ends, now available on the Cock, Peacock, $4.99.
So going into
Or in theaters.
Peacocktober.
like
Yep,
truly
Peacocktober.
after our episode where I'm like, Mike was the big defender of Kills. Okay,
I
that
was.
doesn't mean I didn't like this. I'm excited to see where it goes. The advertising and promise is we are gonna kill Michael. I would like to see how that's pulled off, especially with how that film was left off. Going into this, I was like, this is gonna be great.
I was hoping so too.
So don't necessarily feel that way still, just to tip that hand. But were you guys, I mean, going into a film called Halloween Ends, like super excited? We done all these movies. Don't you just want to be like, this is like a thing to finish? It's like checking off something on your to-do list, right?
Mhm.
Right. I didn't have super high expectations based on Kills. I didn't love that movie. I thought, it had some fun kills and stuff. But I
You
wasn't
win then,
expecting,
Jacob.
like, a
You were
masterpiece.
correct.
Yeah. Well, I think David Gordon Green, he has a hard problem because he's trying to mix sort of this highbrow kind of, ideas into the series with the more lowbrow, crowd pleasing kills and stuff. And this movie has a lot less kills, barely any by Michael at least.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Didn't quite work for me, I don't think.
Gotcha. Well, I was excited about this. I think throughout the journey of last year, going through all the Halloween films, many of which I hadn't seen, Texas Chainsaw is my favorite horror movie, but the Halloween franchise is my favorite franchise. I think Michael is like a fantastic idea, especially Loomis putting him over, the shape, and he's just pure evil. And they're exploring that stuff. And with the David Gordon Green universe, it's at least being made by somebody who you can tell really loves the source material. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they're trying to treat it with a reverence, with a lot of time it's just like, bang out another sequel. So I can appreciate that. Not all the ideas land necessarily, but they're coming at it from, I think, a genuine place. And I was excited to see how it was going to finish, but then you catch wind of like, oh, this is really bad, or a YouTube thumbnail, and I'm like, I don't know, But I think, much like Kills, I'm a lot more charitable towards this one than a lot of other people. So I'll be defending you, Michael. Call me Corey Cunningham.
Well, let's maybe get into like what is it about this movie that makes it kind of so different from a lot of the other
let's talk
sequels?
about it. It starts exactly how every other Halloween film starts, not with an opening credits shot or an iconic score. No, a boy on a bicycle who's on his own separate adventure while we listen to rock on the radio.
Right. No, I like the opening of this movie a lot, though. This opening...
Really?
Are you kidding me? Yeah. So you don't like the opening introduction to Corey and he's babysitting the kid. What do you feel about this?
I'll tell you one thing. A couple things that I really liked about this movie. One is when he's babysitting the kid, they're watching John Carpenter's The Thing, which I think is a great reference to the original, where they're watching the original Thing from Outer Space. So I like that homage. Obviously, like you said, David Gordon Green, big Halloween fan, big John Carpenter fan. There's a lot of other John Carpenter kind of homages in this movie as well, which I know Colin noticed too. So we'll get into that too. But I didn't love the introduction to this character so much. But Colin, what do you think?
So we meet a boy who is babysitting another young child. Time-wise, I have no idea what's going on. Is this 2019?
It was 2019.
No.
This event happens in 2019.
This happens.
This moment, they're saying after those grisly murders, with Michael Myers being back, that occurred a year ago to them? Because that man
happened.
is still out in the night then, and I don't understand why you would ever leave your kid at home on Halloween.
Yeah, it's not like they had the whole town get a mob together to specifically search for this guy.
It is not a specific trauma at this point. What we learned in Kills is this event, like a cancer, affected the whole body of Haddonfield, Illinois.
The whole town.
Okay.
And that's what this
literally everyone
movie continues the idea of. It's the town corrupting, or there's the generational trauma of the town.
Yes.
Is a corrupting influence in people's minds, essentially.
Right. But I must say, them having to push this 4 years out in the timeline, it does hurt it because the whole town was looking for Michael, and you think if he gets away that night, they're not going to stop looking, right? So I can admit that it's kind of an issue with the motivations of characters. Why did Laurie decide to just buy a house and write a book? I understand that doesn't make sense for where we left the characters off. So I don't like that. Right.
No.
They were looking for him for a while, but if it's been 4 years and they haven't found him, maybe they sort of gave up and were just like, well, he's gone somewhere.
But a woman who
kick that can down the road. What's he going to do? Kill 30 more people?
Her entire life from the moment of one single night in 1978 has been devoted to this cannot occur again. That is when she knows this evil is locked up. When that evil has escaped into the night to be itself, her reaction is like, what? That's all wrapped up and done. I gotta go spend my... I understand the daughter.
She's going through a character arc of...
She is maturing. I get this. I also understand Jamie Lee Curtis wanting to play something different in a trilogy. That makes sense too. Let's back up real quick. Back up real quick and finish saying, in this opening scene, we meet this boy, Corey Cunningham. He's a male babysitter. This is 21. Let's say a year after the events of 2018. He's an older boy. He's 21.
Halloween night, 2019.
These assholes are going out for the night, and he's got to look after a bratty kid. Okay, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
What occurs is a mistake, because obviously you would be heightened and scared of the reality that the boogeyman truly could be out there. And what he does is he kills a kid. He kills the child he is watching.
Essentially bullying him.
Yes.
Is
Being
teasing
bullied
about
by
being
children
scared,
is a
locks him
theme
in a closet.
we'll talk about for the rest of this episode.
Yeah.
Yes, this kid gets bullied a lot by people
now,
younger
what
than him.
occurs, and I cannot separate myself here, is you have the least likable performance ever given of this character named Corey Cunningham, who is a piece of shit and will only become more of a piece of shit.
Yes.
Kill a little piece of shit child. And the special effect that's done of it when he falls and breaks his Mike, I am not complimenting it. I was not. I was horrified at how bad it looked. This whole sequence, Doc. From this moment on, I literally in my head said, "Oh, we're in trouble," and the rest of the movie paid off how it went.
The line has been drawn.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was an interesting kind of hook, but what I didn't realize is that this movie was going to be maybe 75, 80% Corey Cunningham, maybe 10% Michael Myers.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way, kind of. Like, we kind of follow Corey's descent into darkness and then eventually crosses paths with Michael. Kind of is where we're at, So not a ton of Michael in this.
And what is going to occur to you as a viewer is something, or a listener of this podcast, but a viewer of the film, if you do watch it, listeners, is that you will have a Jar Jar Binks level effect of, does this character work for you, or does it completely ruin the thing that you were watching? I truly believe that it is that disastrous of an inclusion into a pop culture franchise.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think this is partially what Joe's getting at with wanting to reverse the order of these films, because to introduce a new character in the third film of the finale and then spend so much time with him as sort of the POV character, I mean, it can work. It's interesting, but at the same time, like, people are going to they want to see Michael Myers like killing people. Like, that's what Halloween movies generally are, right? Instead, you have his like shitty protege who's like learning and then eventually surpasses him, I guess.
We survived through The Man in Black, where a cowboy walks out with guns and he's breaking Mike out of jail cell. That's the same audience reaction, Jacob, where I would say if you're watching that, you're like, no, this is not what I'm here for. This is a lesson this franchise has needed to learn, right?
Yeah. I guess if I can weigh in, I'm the guy who likes this movie. And so I have to say that's number one with it in a vacuum, because it does not fit well in the trilogy. And what Jacob's saying about, like, we had Cameron who just gets killed and, the Allison's boyfriend. If this would have been Corey Cunningham from the beginning, and slowly he survives a Michael encounter and then some bad shit happens and he's still getting bullied and he's slowly pulled down that path of evil. Yeah. Very interesting. But that's not how they did it. Much like Star Wars, they kind of didn't write an arc for everybody start to end. They just add characters in each movie. Somehow Palpatine has returned. And that's an issue.
And that's kind of why
Michael Myers has returned.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's somehow 4 years later.
I liken this one to Last Jedi because it's so different and it is kind of divisive. Like, it's taking a big swing, trying something new in the franchise. Whether it works for you or not, that's kind of going to define how much you like the movie. Same with The Last Jedi in a similar way.
Do you like Ewoks, right? I think, again, these films, the way I look at them, I kind of have to look at all of them in a vacuum, because I don't think they work as a unit, right? So the first one successfully...
Right, you could say the same about Star Wars as well, right?
Yeah. So I think they're trying to do different things with each one of these movies. You have to do the sequel reboot, as Colin was saying. What's that term you used?
Legasequel.
The Legasequel, right? Boom, check. Then we need to get Michael just killing a ton of people. That's what they want, right? Check. We did it, right? He's the most, like, he kills a guy with a fire pick and it's wild, right?
Yes.
And then it's
they go the exact opposite direction.
Let's make a very character-driven story. I like it because it's not the same old. And I guess Corey works for me, and I like that it's very character-driven. That's what Stephen King was saying.
Is.
I thought that before. I know that's not what fans want, but I like it because it's different.
I almost disagree with you then, Mike. I think it almost works only as a trilogy, to look at it that way and see the variety of it. I agree with that I think that's like remarkably cool, because again, when I watch this, I'm like, this is not a Halloween movie. Like, everything that is occurring in this movie is not a Halloween movie.
Yeah. I think there are thematic elements that tie this trilogy together, whereas the first one is sort of dealing with the trauma of Laurie Strode. The second one dealing with the larger trauma of the town in general. And then the third one is taking that generational trauma of the town and showing how someone would be kind of corrupted by it. I
The
guess.
youth. How is this fucked up the youth? How is this even fucked up Laurie's granddaughter that Andi
Yes.
Matichak is like somehow,
An
God
insane
bless her heart,
person.
has to give like heart eyes at basically the craziest performance you have ever seen.
And,
Yeah.
and I gotta,
film.
I find her character baffling in this. The rate at which she's just like all in on Corey Cunningham.
Well,
It's like
that's-
if
Oh,
that
yeah.
would have been established for 3 movies, sure.
And that's the whole
yeah.
issue with the Corey Cunningham arc
It's
is that
rushed.
it's so rushed. It's like the last season of Game of Thrones with Daenerys or something, where it's like you're supposed to like this kid at the beginning.
Buddy,
Yeah.
it's Jar Jar. Everybody, you forget that every scene in Phantom Menace 1 is in service to other characters being like, God, this guy's hilarious, isn't he? Kids, don't you love this guy?
Right.
And you as an audience are constantly like, everybody's telling me I'm supposed to like this guy. I don't know. When I watch Corey Cunningham and literally Laurie Strode comes out and is like, I had to introduce you to the super hunk, normal, awesome guy. I saw him getting bullied by a bunch
Bizarre,
of like
yeah.
little children
They're
with
band
lollipops
kids,
in their
too.
Yeah,
mouths.
he's getting okay. He's a
He's bullied by the
25-year-old
band
man
kids.
being yes,
Drumline.
bullied by not only high schoolers but band
But
kids,
Jacob,
the nerdiest high
he's a
schoolers.
overweight, chubby, acne-ridden loser. Unfortunately, I hate to say all that, listeners.
He's sort of
who
a
pushes
loner,
past
yes.
them as a weirdo loner who has a history in a town who has a weird thing about babysitter murders. So, like,
Mhm.
regardless of however it went for that kid, you'd be like, wait, that's the second time that happened? What's this story? And then he pushes past them and goes, I gotta get my chocolate milk. And you'd be like, like there's so many red flags. You would just be like, this guy is a psychopath.
Which is the question. Was it always in him? Or wasn't
don't
it?
know.
That's part of it. So this
Well,
movie
that's
lives
what-
and dies on the Cunningham,
Yes.
basically Jar Jar. Like you
Again,
said.
for the arc to be so rushed, it's like you're supposed to like this character at the beginning. He has a sympathetic backstory of accidentally killing this kid. The whole town hates him. He's seen as a weirdo, a freak, rejected by society, working in a junkyard.
Mechanic shop, which, wears the same boiler suit. I knew right then
said
what we
to
were
Jacob,
into.
Right.
Well, let's see. How do we put coveralls on our kid here?
Yeah.
But where it falls apart for me is like, okay, so they're doing his kind of descent into sociopathy or becoming a Michael Myers, but Michael Myers didn't become Michael Myers at age 25. Like, he was a young kid. Like, sociopaths don't just become sociopath. Like, it generally, you are born with it, right? I mean, it's nature versus nurture. But to me, it's just like
something with the brain or whatever,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the lesson of this film seems to be perception from outside is what shapes who we are as people.
Well-
Almost saying, was little clown Michael really in the wrong? Or was it because we were all like, hey, killing your sister's wrong that made him more evil?
Well, I
It's like,
disagree
I
with
don't
that
know.
whole stop, because Laurie is literally writing her book and she's saying there's 2 types of evil. One that's without, it's a danger to the tribe, that which is external, right? That's Michael,
Yeah.
this external evil, right? And then Corey represents internal evil that can be cultivated and grows and you don't even know you have it. That's what it is.
but the
to
whole
me.
thing with coming
But
down
he can
to
get his eyes.
yeah, the look in his
We've
eyes
seen the
being
Thorn
the
trilogy.
same look as. But here's the thing. So Laurie
If that had
Strode
been, if
meets
he had
this
had
guy.
the tattoo at the end, Mike,
Oh,
if that had been
fuck.
what was
David Gordon
revealed, I've
Green's
been
a
like,
god.
okay, this is great.
Yeah.
That would have been sure, why not? But Laurie Strode meets this guy getting bullied, says, you know what, you should date my granddaughter, I guess. But just sees something in him that he's like, yeah, he's probably a good guy. But then later sees him and is like, oh, he has the same eyes as Michael. But like,
There's been
it's just,
no change.
it's just baffling.
He has acted crazy since the first moment she spoke to him.
And the thing is, his life has only gotten better since the beginning of the film. 4 years later, his life's bad, but it's getting better. He meets
It's a
a cute
motorcycle.
new girlfriend who's like way above his league generally.
Yeah.
And is super into him for some reason. And he
Who's
still
a
decides to
nurse?
become Michael Myers.
Yeah, free motorcycle. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
he's great. He can just run away with his
His
girlfriend.
parents love him. His mom and his uncle who live together for some
Maybe
reason.
too much. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe too much with the mom there. A little Jason Voorhees there. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what
I
that's
don't
what it's
know.
living and dying on is if you can buy this arc. And I have a harder time buying Allison, just like again being all in. And if he was a presence where you knew, that the kid accidentally died, and everyone bullies him at high school, and Allison's not with him right away, but she's aware of him, and then she goes through some trauma, and then they bond. That's what you should be doing, but you're not writing an arc of 3 movies. You're making 3 movies that are 3 flavors of Chip. And
Again,
Chip
I think
is
you can
Myers.
do the descent to becoming Michael Myers, but why would he do that when his life is only improving by meeting a girlfriend? His life's back on track.
Still getting
and you're
bullied.
asking
Got
these
no
questions,
respect.
but you're acting like it's all rational. I just want to say what you guys are saying about it is all great and stuff. I worry that our listeners who aren't going to watch this movie aren't going to realize that the interactions that are in these movies, the dialogue scenes being so bad, the performances being so across the board, in my opinion, to the fluctuations of he will come up to her, scream, "I killed someone tonight." And she'll act like she didn't hear him say that. Then they'll go on a nice date.
He's ignoring a lot of
Then
red flags.
he will jump off the roof of a building and say, "I've never been scared to die. Now that I don't have that, I have a superpower. Don't you realize that?" And
No, Colin, the first half of this movie is like a Joker and Harley Quinn origin story. Where they're like, let's burn down this fucking town. Let's get out of here.
We need to get out of
I'll
here
light the
because
match.
everyone has wronged us. And she
Yeah.
basically hears those things and is like, "You are so normal." Like, basically, her sides of the conversation
so
are
in
as
love
if
with
he's
you.
saying, "We need to go take care of your grandmother. I love you." It is like, the disconnect is crazy.
Yeah, and to the point where even when Laurie Strode is like, "No, he's dangerous. Like, we got to stop him," and she turns against her grandma, saying, "Like, you don't understand, whatever, blah blah blah." But like,
You don't
just
want us
totally
to be
ignoring the multiple red flags of her new boyfriend maybe being a serial killer.
Yeah.
Now we're
go
talking
ahead.
a lot about him. Let's back up. So he is the big plot of this all. He is involved in this all. But he also has a pet alligator, Mike, that lives down in a little swamp that he has to feed to survive. Now, the name of this alligator, of course, is Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Dangerous escaped mental asylum.
Right.
patient.
So we find out Michael Myers has been living in the sewer for the last 4 years, maybe luring people in once in a while, killing them, eating probably rats and
Or
sewer
dog,
water.
maybe.
Eating them, Jacob.
Yeah,
Eating
maybe
whoever
eating
he
them.
gets.
Got to
Right.
survive 4 years in the sewer near the bridge. Well, the band kids throw Corey off a bridge, and that's when he meets Michael. So he's kind of like at his wit's end, right? But the homeless man's raving, "No, don't go in that tunnel. There's crazy guy." So he's like, "I'm gonna go in that tunnel," and he meets Michael Myers, and maybe he gets powers. I don't know. That becomes is Michael Myers supernatural or not?
He becomes the woman from Lake Placid. He, from this point on, has a dangerous creature that he can unleash on unwitting people that he wants to. Or as I said to Jacob, what we agreed on, the other Carpenter connection, Mike, this is the plot of Christine. This is the killer car
it's very
Christine
heavy.
Yes,
The
Hellraiser.
homages even.
Yes.
But he works in a junkyard. Like there's the scenes where he, spoiler alert, kills the band kids is like straight out of Christine.
Oh,
with the
yeah.
car and everything.
Protsky.
But his whole thing is like so in Christine, one of the protagonists at the beginning slowly becomes corrupted by this evil car, Christine.
He's a loser.
In this movie, he's being, the evil force is Michael Myers living in a sewer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that somebody would get messages from a car more than I would the mute maniac who's in the corner who I just know doesn't have a brain, Jacob.
Well, here's the question. Right. The question with, I think, every iteration of Michael ever, every franchise, except for 3 because he's not in that movie, the Halloween franchise, is he supernatural or isn't he? And that's what this makes me wonder. Because, like, does Corey just see as Michael looks into it? Like, Michael lets him go. He can kill him. He's holding him by the throat, but Michael sees, like, this guy's a sociopath too. Like, maybe
he looks in his eyes and sees the same eyes staring back at him, so he lets him go.
I guess so.
It's like a really fucked up Karate Kid. It's like, I've never had a son. Maybe I can teach you my ways, right? You're a
Michael's
sociopath.
son.
Yeah. Well, Corey's son.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the question. Is like, does he transfer his essence, or does he just do they then have an understanding of like, you know what, I could just unleash the beast, baby, fuck this town, murder spree, and like
Well, I'm not even sure that it's consistent in this trilogy of how, what are Michael's powers? How strong is he
it's not
really?
consistent in the franchise. So like,
No, but just even
yeah,
within this trilogy, like he's fucking up groups
Yeah.
of people in the last movie, and now he's like this old man who can't fight off this one weirdo who steals
Yeah.
his mask.
Let's talk about Michael. So he's old. He, I guess, isn't eating right. He has not received proper medical attention since he kind of like got shot in the hand,
He's
right?
missing
And all that
fingers.
stuff by kills. Yeah. So I don't know, brain rot, Jacob. He's going crazy. So of the behavior that we get in this, we get a pretty normal Michael at the end. We get kind of this weird mute ghost Michael at the top here. And then really during the only kill that he's sort of very hands-on with, the police officer kill, the sort of orgasmic behavior. How did you guys interpret sort of the gasping, the convulsing, the eager slashes? What was Michael going through in that?
I think
I don't know.
he just loves killing. I think like not in a sexual way. I think he just like it's like, this is my shit. Like I exist to take life, right? And you've given me an opportunity to do that, my son. Thank you. And I like that scene because like you see how like he does the kill, and then he just keeps stabbing the corpse.
And
Corey's like, maybe that's a little.
They do some tag team kills, right? Where it seems like Corey's kind of learning from him. Yeah,
I see something though there where like he goes above and beyond. It's not just the kill, then it's like this performative, whatever it is, whatever Michael's doing. Then Corey's like, it's more than just the death. There's this fucking like artistry kind of behind it. There's pride almost in your work. It's weird.
So Corey's first kill is, aside from the kid at the beginning, he meets Michael, is released by Michael, comes back out of the sewer. The homeless guy that's out there confronts him and is like, why'd he let you go? Like he never lets anyone go or whatever. And he stabs him.
Go back in there. You shouldn't be out here.
Yeah.
The homeless guy pulls a knife on him, right?
Oh, is that it?
And then he
turns it around on
self-defends. And then, so that's the setup. It was
the first taste. After an accidental kid head
accidental
snapping.
self-defense, and then we get premeditated, full stop, right?
Yeah.
Throws the knife into the woods like an idiot. But
this is what I don't understand, because if that's his kind of tipping point of like, oh, I like killing people, but he already killed that kid 4 years ago, wouldn't he have had some kind of feelings about that?
Well, I think he's having guilt and he doesn't know he likes it. Right? This is what how does one go from a presumably normal person to someone who could do that, right?
Is this Dexter?
That's the arc.
Was there a season of Dexter where Dexter teaches someone to be a serial killer?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there's been stuff like that for sure.
Again, it's living and dying on the Corey arc, and if you don't like it, you're gonna hate this movie. But I see what it's doing, and personally, I appreciated it. I like it. I don't know why. It's just something different.
I'm amazed that you like it.
Who doesn't want to see a tag team where Michael's got a little buddy, a little sidekick, and they're running around? That's great.
They do some sidekick adventures.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Laurie's kind of detective work is, like Jacob said, getting pushed further away from her granddaughter. And then kind of just hanging out at the bar with the other little girl, Julie. What was the other little girl's name who sort of survived the night?
Yeah.
Who owns the bar now or whatever.
Yeah, the girl with the tarot cards is the girl from
across the street. Yeah.
And then questioning the dirtbag father from the beginning. And this guy, once again, to just say the most detached asshole who has ever existed. You're being a jackass the night of when your son gets killed, when, like, again, you're going out on a night where it's like notorious that kids who are getting babysat will get killed. Like, that's like, what will happen? But Jacob, he's playing cool, and basically he gives this answer of like, I don't know, I didn't really care. And then I was like, I'll say sorry to this little asshole. And then I went and saw him, and he had the scariest eyes I've ever seen. Another reference of this. So truly, you're right, Jacob. This is like the premise of this movie is what is in someone's eyes, I guess. But it cuts to a recreation of the scene. And instead of like the quiet, like dead-eyed, whatever you would expect for a Michael, a serial killer, again, this kid's performance, what we get is basically him going like, like the dad is just like, ooh, and just like zooms away.
Why are you driving
Every
here?
scene plays like a comedy scene. And there's so much cursing. Jamie Lee Curtis keeps saying fuck in every scene.
Yeah, that's how you know it's edgy.
In the preview, like, hype videos too, they're like, audience, it's gonna blow their fucking minds. Like, even in the pressers, she's going in.
Dog.
Well, about the parents, so this is a minor nitpick, but
sure,
in this movie, people always show up right when they're needed to for the plot, because these parents are just always hanging out at this bar, because the mom confronts them in that other scene when they're dancing.
When the mom's there,
And they're the rich ones.
Are these parents just hanging out at this bar constantly now? I guess because they're just drinking
There's
themselves
only
to
one
death.
bar in Haddonfield.
Yeah. And then the band kids always just showing up at the right time for the script. It's like, I don't know. It's just a lazy script writing thing.
And
was
that's
that
horror
the
movies,
same
so.
bar in Kills where we see Tommy at like the variety night? Oh God, Jesus Christ! These movies.
Because Julie works there, right?
Hey, 38
And the
years
other thing
ago, a
about
lot of
these,
people died in this town. Never
Can I just mention these band kids, these 4 band kids that are friends? Each one of them is like a different kind of high school kid that would probably not really be friends. And it's just so funny. Like, there's like the popular kid, the stoner looking kid, like the serious, studious kid. It's like, you guys are like a friend group, like very
They
strange.
all have one different piece of band equipment on. Like, one will be like the hat, one will be the full uniform. The jock kid will just have the coat on, and it's
then
like,
you got the drummer.
they all do marching.
Yeah,
So he's
but like the
holding the
kid with the rich
drumsticks.
dad with the nice car, that it's like, you wouldn't be a band kid. Like, what are you talking about?
No.
We're driving a LeBaron.
So that's just minor nitpicking.
No, and again, I think it's trying to introduce this formula. Like, where does Michael Myers used to do? Kill teenagers. How do we get Corey to kill teenagers, right? It's like, horror movie writing. And like, if we got to grade it on a curve, guys. And like, have you seen other Halloween movies? It's not any worse.
I would say, I would argue the Rob Zombie movies are, so they're doing
this hot take. And I agree.
Yes.
I will become
Halloween. Well, the origin of Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween is doing the same thing that this movie's trying to do, showing sort of the bullied becoming the bully, the generational trauma thing. Like, young Michael in that movie was kind of like Corey, where he's being bullied, like he's got a rough family life. His stepdad bullies him, then he's getting bullied at school. It's the same arc,
mean
right?
to him.
Roy will grow up to be Tyler Mane.
Yeah, totally. I like, you guys are gonna kill me, and so is the internet, but I like the Corey version better.
But it makes sense for a kid, not for a 25-year-old adult, right?
Well, until you look in Michael Myers' eyes,
Like you're saying, grading on a curve, though. I can
franchise.
pull those other ones away and be like, okay, I'm just watching this one then. I don't need to think about any of this other one.
Yeah.
And just going off what you say of different, where I'm like, I do want to experience something new. Whatever, put anything in here. The logical gaps of literally when I had to rewind the ending twice to be like, what does Laurie think she's doing here right now? Yeah, you thought I was going to commit suicide, but I wasn't. Pause. Rewind.
Right. Why was she pretending to
What
commit
did she
suicide?
just say out loud? Play.
She knew Michael was there, I
thought
guess.
I was going to
I think there's a scene missing. Yeah, we need that reel.
Guys.
Reel missing.
And then for Corey's reaction to that to be, well, I'll commit suicide for real. The ending of this film, Mike, I paused it and just went, it's not even that it doesn't make sense. It just feels like a writer was like, well, fuck, this thing just has to end, huh?
Well,
like, I'm not getting paid by the word here. It's just got to be over.
Let me tell you how the events go. So he shows up, Corey shows up to Laurie after killing a bunch of people.
Laurie has said, stay away. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's
they're
confronting
saying
Laurie
that now. Yes.
Laurie has said to the granddaughter, like, you shouldn't be with this guy. Like, we need to get away from him. He's evil. He shows up and he's just killed a bunch of people that have wronged him or whatever.
He stole Michael's mask. He goes, and you're an old man. I'm taking your mask. Fuck you. And
I'm
he
sorry.
steals
We are jumping ahead. Let's talk about the mask scene real quick.
But he's doing the teenage killing with the mask. But he swipes it.
Goes back to Michael's sewer, wrestles him
After he's
down
got a
and
taste for
steals his
blood.
mask.
This is
Yeah.
what you want. This is what you want. And we get an old man going like, my mask, please.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "You're nothing but an old man," or whatever.
In a mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he takes it. It's a little bit of a struggle, which is, I think it's neat. Like seeing Michael almost overpowering, like he's sliding in the dirt, but then he gets the upper, he knocks him down because he's an old man.
Yeah.
It shows
It's the
Michael still
Sith
got a little bit of
apprentice
gas in the tank.
beating the master, becoming the new Sith master.
Two there are. Yeah, always.
Yeah, there can only be two.
So he does
But yes, then he
copycat
goes on
murders in the mask. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he goes on a bit of a rampage, kills the his bullies, the marching band kids, kills some other
The
people.
DJ and some other
In a
people
car.
wronged him. Yeah.
Michael
Yes.
doesn't kill with cars. He pulls a full Christine.
Michael
Full
does drive a
Christine
car, though.
in the junkyard.
Taught him how to drive.
Michael can drive it, and he knows what a garbage disposal does.
So
But anyway, so
we know Michael Myers has at least done dishes and learned the user's
Yes.
manual for a car.
We're
in
going to
his
talk
life.
about that scene. Quiet,
okay,
get
but-
Yeah,
this
yeah.
taken.
So Corey confronts Laurie Strode at her house. She's pretending like she's about to kill herself. Turns out she was faking just to, I guess, attract Corey into her house. It turns on him and says, "You thought I was gonna fucking kill myself."
Joke's
Fights
on
him.
you.
Then he says, "Well, if I can't have your granddaughter, I'm gonna turn her against you by making it look like you killed me." So he stabs himself in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
So setting up Laurie Strode, and then the granddaughter shows up, sees this basically.
She smartly
I
grabs the
know-
knife out of a dead body and holds it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I know what it looks like. Hey, I'm Corey. I know fans, you don't want me to be in this movie anymore. I understand that like nobody has appreciated this. Let me go ahead and do what everybody wants me to do. It does
then-
not make one.
But of
lick
course, he
sense.
doesn't die fully from that, because then later, when Michael inevitably shows up, Michael kills him for real, right?
So
Yeah.
Laurie does the badass thing when she's disarming Corey as Michael. He loses this clown mask he's been using. Like we said, he's got
Yeah.
the full-on Michael mask, so she assumes he's Michael.
Mhm.
No, it's Corey. Where she is firing her gun up into other rooms, assuming that Michael is also in the house. So she is just like looking around and just like shooting at her blind spots. I thought that was incredible.
I
Yeah.
think this is the movie everyone came to see, is the last 20 minutes of this, right?
Yes.
The middle of it works for
Right.
me. It doesn't work for everybody. And I appreciate Corey dying, because, everybody watching it, they're like, this is the fucking curse of Michael Myers. My God, dude, they're going to do the thing. It's like, no, that's,
Right.
rest assured,
the-
we're not replacing Michael, right?
The main problem for me, I guess, is that it is the Corey Cunningham show for the first 2/3 of this movie, and then finally,
Hour and a
like
half.
Michael's barely in this, and then he finally shows up at the end, just to basically have the climactic final battle with Laurie Strode,
Yes.
gets owned and gets pinned to a table.
But
and
this
Mhm.
roll around though, I liked it. But there are moments of it, like the garbage disposal, where it is Naked Gun level comedy fight scene, where it's like, what else is in the room? We're rolling around. What
Right.
like there could have been a moment where like. Then she plugs in a blender and puts Michael's hand in that or something. Like literally, it's just
Yeah.
like
But the idea that Michael knows that if he shoves her hand in this hole in the sink and then flips a switch, it would be bad for her. Like, when did he ever learn that?
You think
the
6-year-old Michael
sewer.
never saw his mom run a garbage disposal?
I guess.
Come
I
on, he had
guess
6 years to
Who
learn a little bit,
cares?
learn how to
But
drive.
at the end of the
Yes.
day, it's a woman in her 60s fighting a man in his 80s or
Yes.
whatever.
And let's say this, there's also an entire element we have left off, which is a woman in her late 60s having a romance subplot. So Will Patton, the surviving sheriff over the course of these
Mhm.
last two films, is of course a retired character in this film, kind of in and out of her life. Jacob said this cherry blossom things earlier that made me laugh so hard, because that is his recurring plot. And Jamie Lee Curtis narrates it in her book at one point, suicide or cherry blossoms, question mark.
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God.
Because
this
she
movie.
can either choose to go to Japan with him and start a
I'm-
fresh
Will Patton,
life.
Will Patton, the
He's
guy
great.
who I call Colonel Sanders, because every time I see this guy, he is turning more and more. Wait, Nori, what if you and I went to Japan? We went and got your sushi.
He's just a Haddonfield local,
Yeah,
right?
he's just a good old boy. Now,
But we thought he died in the first
Goddamn
one. It was
Rosetta
a fake
Stone.
out death.
huge surprise. That was maybe the
Yeah.
best part of Kills for me, was like Will Patton's alive. This is great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The reveal at the end here is, of course, she sort of succeeds. There's this, she removes Michael's mask, throat slit.
Mhm.
Okay.
pinned to a
choked. You're
table
coming with me.
with
Pinned to the
knives.
table, seeming like it's going to be bad for Lori. Lori doesn't care. She kind of embraces it. Andi Matichak, granddaughter, comes back. We finish things.
Yeah.
Wrapped up with the sheriff
Slice his
arrives.
throat, slice his arms.
Mhm.
He's bleeding out.
They do the
It's
fucking
wild,
suicide
yeah.
to him
Yeah.
because Lori's like, no, we're making church.
And
That's
then-
great. Yes.
And then at the end,
Now
they're like,
Will Patton arrives and she
Yeah.
says, like, is it over? It's over. The Texas Marshal comes, the Rangers,
Mhm.
everybody, the whole town, and they walk out and Lori says, we're getting justice tonight. And somebody in the crowd says something to the effect of like, well, I don't know if that's justice. And the marshal says, tonight it is.
That's on how we
And
do
the
things.
Right.
whole town
yes.
does a fucking vigil for Michael, basically. Run him out like bad boys, right? Run him up to the scrapyard, a recurring set for just this film.
Mhm.
And then they turn him into chum.
Yeah, they put him
They
in a
feed
car
him-
crusher thing.
Yeah, they tie him to the top of a car, throw him in the car crusher because they've seen Michael
Everybody
Myers movies
collapse.
before.
Well, they
know
crowd
he can
surf
never
him.
die.
They crowd surf him to the crusher. Don't forget.
Yeah,
that happens.
yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I would
Um,
not touch him, by
No.
the way, if I was part of any
Well,
of
it's almost like Lori is giving him like a certain amount of respect in death. Like even the
He's
way she
almost
kills him.
baptized. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of weird. Like they're
It's
almost
a weird
like,
reverence towards him.
yeah,
somehow.
yeah,
So that feels like this is, if it was 2 movies, Halloween Ends would have ended like this. Like
yeah.
with the whole town's in, we're ready, let's fucking get his body out of here. But because the first 2/3 of this are so disjointed, having the town come together and crowd surf him, I get throwing him into the chipper because
You gotta
take
make
no
sure he's dead.
chances. Gotta
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
sure. But the whole like crowd surfing him, and it's almost like he's a religious figure at that point. That I didn't really buy that. Like, yeah, drive him up there, and everyone should be yelling and throwing rocks at his body and shit, not like, oh,
Right.
Michael,
Yeah.
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 I
But
guess
that's-
he's just so monumental and important to what this city of Haddonfield has become.
The
that they're
trauma,
like-
you
Yeah.
said.
yeah,
a
it's
poison
almost
for
like
40
yeah,
years.
they're putting their trauma to rest by throwing him into the wood chipper.
Now,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
liked all this. I was very excited. I don't know if you guys did. I did not think Lori was going to die, so I was also very happy to come out of this movie with her living.
I could
Yeah.
have seen both happening, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that Lori gets to live. Final
I didn't
girl.
think she would kill herself. The ending to me was the best part of this movie for sure.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are
Is
you
this a
satisfied?
challenge?
Well, if I can ask, are you satisfied with if this is the final confrontation of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, right? Are you satisfied
Yeah.
with that, Colin?
Well, yeah, and I guess the big question for the wrap up is what the hell is a Halloween movie going forward? But yeah, I didn't know that this would have been an option again a couple years ago when they're like, we're bringing her back. I'd seen it in H2O. I'm an old man. They've pulled
Yeah.
this trick before. This isn't even that fresh, but to kill Michael, to definitively, and again, it is for the audience more than anything to go like, no. And then the chum that comes out, we're going to put that into a bucket of acid, and then like, we'll feed that to a dog. Like they could have almost just like kept going to go like,
Put it
he's
in the
gone.
bottom of the ocean,
Trust us.
like
Yeah,
Megatron
exactly.
Yeah.
style.
They
Yeah.
could just incinerate
Yeah.
him like in a morgue incinerator. That would kind of take care of the problem.
Jacob,
wouldn't it?
the first
True.
movie,
You're
he
right.
escapes a basement completely
That's
Oh
true.
on
yeah,
fire.
yeah. He's fireproof.
We know he is fireproof. How dare you even
Yes.
imply that he would die?
He's
now?
probably
Good
survived a
point.
couple fires actually. If I'm looking back at the
Yeah.
series, we'll see. But
I think with
It
the
might bring him back to life.
yeah,
the Laurie Strode of it all, I think is fine. I mean, I thought H2O would have been a fine ending for her character. She never needed to come back to do these, so I think it's fine. And I think they try to do the same thing with H2O with her decapitating him, but they only
Right.
added later that
Right.
it was not
They
actually
retcon it.
Michael. Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
which
they
I
wanna,
think-
they want to make another
Jacob,
movie.
Halloween ends ... again. You see Michael putting Corey with the mask on. They're actually crowd surfing Corey's body.
Oh,
They're
God.
like disposing of
But see, I think they
Corey.
made it very explicit. Like they take off
Yeah.
his mask, he's lying there on the table, like bleeding out. They
Old
wanna make-
man beard
Mhm.
burns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they make like very sure that like he's dead. And I think definitively that's the end of this timeline or universe or whatever. Like they're not going to make any more movies in this universe. The only way they can go from here is like a total reboot kind of thing.
which I could see him doing absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the COD family will keep making these, but I think Blumhouse has said like they're not like that's the end of Halloween Blumhouse kind of deal. So
Yeah. I mean, again, there's no perfect timeline, in this franchise. And I did think H2O used to be my favorite.
One movie.
Yeah, there is. It's
the
called
perfect
Watch
timeline
Halloween
is just to
and
watch
Stop.
the original and just not bother with the rest
That's
of it.
how it ends.
Honestly, that's the best way to do it. But if you're a masochist, you can check out the other shit. But I think this is as satisfying to me as the H2O final thing. Like, it's a little bit more poetic, I guess, or it's kind of she's sending him off almost. As H2O is like this aggressive "fuck you, Michael." This is almost like, man, we've been through the shit, huh, buddy? All right, just catch you in the afterlife. It's like there's almost like a begrudging respect out of Laurie here, which is a layer to the character.
Well, it's interesting the way the Laurie Strode character in H2O is very different in a lot of ways than the Laurie Strode in these movies, where she's dealing with this kind of PTSD, but she's much more afraid of it. Whereas in this case, she's she's obviously become like a weirdo, but like she's not letting her fear define her. She's actually taking things in her own hands by setting a trap for Michael in the first movie and doing all that. So it's a very the way she's playing the character is very different, right?
Yeah, and I think this movie in particular also sets up things for Laurie to question, like when Allison is like, you're pretty capable of causing harm. Your hysteria caused my mom to get murdered by Michael and drew his attention, and the idea that she is not Michael's sister, she's more obsessed with Michael than he is with her. It's like she finally gets to kill her big game. Like, she's always wanted to be the killer, but it can only be Michael, right? And she gets that, And
Weird. She does get blamed for a lot of the actions of Michael in the first movie, but also there was this whole crazy doctor who was trying to lead him back to Laurie too in the first one.
Yes, Michael.
Yeah, but he got it wrong too. But the idea that Laurie has basically been living her whole life of like, I will kill Michael Myers, and he's not. So that's like a thing. She's had maybe that same kind of thing.
It's the Mad Men meme of like, I feel bad for you, and then Don Draper says, I don't think about you at all. That's the Laurie Strode Michael Myers relationship.
He does not care.
Yeah, but she again has been obsessed with thinking of how do I kill him.
He should have when his throat was slit, he should have just kept going, my pocket. And Laurie said, what? You want something in here? Pulls it out. It's a picture of his sister's
as a baby.
Window. No, his sister's window.
Oh, right.
He gets to finally look at it. The last thing he wants to look at. He touches it. He dies happy.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Again,
it was a great view.
Rob Zombie movies doing a lot of the same things this movie's doing, and I think doing it in a better way.
Yeah.
So Rob Zombie did it better.
Turns out I like the Rob Zombie movies better. Now, here is my challenge, Mike, to our super editor here.
Oh, yeah.
Can you kill Corey, get rid of 2/3 of the top of this film, and insert it to the end of Kills, where Judy Greer dies, we get that stuff, we get the ending of that film, but since it's Jamie Lee Curtis finally coming back from the hospital and going like, what's going on and stuff, it just continues. She gets into a house somehow, the fight continues, they get him, it just goes straight into the funeral, buddy.
You thought I was going to kill myself. Just play that as Michael.
Yes.
The haircut happens. That's going to be hard to cut around. But beyond that, you're fine.
I don't. There's some other stuff we could insert to build out another third act where she somehow says she cleans herself up or something.
A day later. But you could do it. You could do it. I was thinking about that too as I'm watching this. I'm like, how do you just kind of put this at the end of Kills so it does feel like two movies that went on the same night? I think it's possible. Maybe I'll have to cyberpunk my way to some copies of these.
I don't know. I think
see what's up.
The time gap between that last movie and this movie, it's kind of necessary to show how Michael's been just living in the sewer for years, in a weakened state, because he goes from being able to take on groups of people,
but he gets
you just show him get his ass kicked by the whole town, and then
I'm
still here,
shot in the hand and loses most of his fingers, Jacob.
Right.
You wouldn't feel normal after that.
But that's what I mean. Like, the 4 years is the way to explain why he's so much weaker. He's older. he's
No.
he's been
He
living
goes straight
rough.
to the house.
I
He's
think
got
it's
no
fine
fingers.
if like 38
Tries
people
to
were hitting
choke her.
you with lamps and shit in the middle of the
Yeah.
street. Yeah,
Yeah.
laundry baskets or whatever the hell they are.
Yeah, whatever dumbass.
But
thing
then
those
that
people
makes
thought
kills
they'd
look
do.
like, yeah, it's like Michael's final ride, you know, and he's like, God, oh man, they beat the shit out of me. Lori, I'm coming for you. Okay, you know, rip. And then the whole
Yeah.
town sends him off. Evil dies
Yeah,
tonight,
maybe.
right?
Evil eats fries tonight is what I've been saying because
Ah.
Corey goes on dates and he's
Eating fries.
evil eats fries tonight.
I'm going.
That should be what they say for this third movie.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call the edit "Evil dies tonight," you know, and that'll be
Right.
when he actually does in
Well,
Halloween Kills.
Now, the granddaughter, explain to me, Colin, why she is so attracted to Corey. Is it because they are both have dealt with sort of death and trauma in their past and have this connection to Michael Myers that is what attracts her to him?
I think
No,
so.
I
think that's what they're going
assume
for.
she's blind.
Yeah.
Did we know the sheriff before this movie? That was in the time jump. She has dated this guy.
Yeah, we never.
Oh yeah, the police officer.
I've never seen him
guy.
before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's in
Right.
a time jump.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just an idiot. She
he
dates
might have been in
losers.
Kills in
Yeah, it
hindsight.
seems
I
like
think there
it.
might have been
Every
yeah.
boyfriend she's ever had is a loser. The guy in the first movie was.
That's maybe a
loser.
byproduct of just living in a small town like Haddonfield where there's not a lot of choices out there, which is why she
I
wants
would
to
say.
leave, right? She wants to get
Yes.
away.
Yeah, I think
Very weird arc for her, I guess, through the
I-
three movies, right?
I can't even
yeah,
imagine.
I mean, I wanted her arc to pay off because that's what it looks like, you know. Obviously generational trauma and stuff is a big theme. And then the way it landed with this, it's like she just wants to date the bad boy and grandma doesn't understand. And it's a little
Right.
fast and forced for sure. I think what they
And
thought
grandma
they were going
introduced
for is
them.
that shared trauma, but no.
In the
Right.
second one, she's hunting Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's
With-
influenced by her grandma to be proactive in like trying to fight Michael, basically.
And 4 years later, she hates her grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, only because
Because she misses
doesn't like the
Judy
boyfriend.
Greer. I mean, it's bullshit. So
Yeah, so there's some
Toby
balls
Huss
dropped with
dies?
that. Yeah,
Worse.
with the Karen death, they dropped the ball on kind of what that should have been to the plot for sure. So
I think so, yeah.
I think the best
Right,
thing to do
let's-
is, quickly, instead of putting Michael at the end of ends, I just need to rotoscope Corey into as many scenes of kills in
Yes.
2018
now
to
that might be
develop
another
a
solution,
relationship.
Michael. He. Do you know this kid from the Hardy Boys Hulu TV show? That is the only thing he's
No.
been on. Okay.
No, I've not seen that.
People
And
I will say
I've
this.
almost watched it a bunch. Now I never will. I will never watch anything with
Wow.
this kid.
You hate this
Again,
actor?
I apologize, young man. I understand I should be able to separate you. I can't.
You're gonna bully him on Twitter. Let's go.
And that could be,
Evil
due
Dies
to
Tonight.
direction that the way he's acting.
I
but-
don't know, man.
And I think like what would Joe was saying, we were talking off pod about how we would sort of fix this trilogy.
Yeah.
I think if you did introduce this guy as a character in the first one and he's there throughout the three movies, it would make more sense to me. But to just introduce, it's like a final season of a TV show where 75% of it is about a new character they wrote in and they're just spinning their wheels, and then by the end they're like, oh yeah, we gotta like wrap this up.
Yeah,
It's just like didn't work for me.
the older brother goes to college, and we got to bring in the cousin from out of town, and
Yeah.
everybody hates it. Yeah,
Hope
yeah,
for
yeah.
Grace is
Stranger
leaving the
Things
show.
does it
Yeah.
no, but Stranger Things does it great. They introduce Eddie in the most recent season and
Yeah.
devote a lot of time to him, and you go like, well, hold on, isn't this unfair too? But eventually you're won over due to charisma, performance, writing, whatever.
That's true. But with
You're not won
Stranger
over in this,
Things,
dog. Yeah.
they're great at just adding characters every season and making them interesting characters. This feels like they're adding, cousin Jimmy as a new full-time cast member, and it's like, oh, you're replacing like the main protagonist,
And he's the
apparently.
star. That 70s show was very apt because
Right.
it really is
Yeah.
like, let's get rid of whatever we liked. Don't you want to follow Seth Meyers' brother? And it's like, no.
Right.
I could understand, audiences being a little feeling tricked by that because the trailers were all the last,
Yes.
third
Yeah,
of
well,
the
they had
movie.
to show some Michael
Of
stuff. And
course.
it's like there's like no Michael
There's
stuff.
nothing.
Even
Can you
stuff they
imagine if
play
the
as
trailer
Michael in
was
the
him
trailer.
the sewer Mike.
Oh man, yeah. Well, they do show him grabbing Corey, but they don't show anything else, and it's like it's played. Even some of the Corey kills in the boiler suit, they play it as if it's Michael in the trailer.
Of course.
yeah,
Of
yeah.
course.
Yeah, because they needed scenes of
Yeah.
someone in a Michael
Filler.
Myers mask stabbing
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's where we'll let it die, let it lie, and we'll hop over to final thoughts on Halloween Ends. David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, Wild Ride. Catch you on the other side.
We're back. Here on Normies Like Us, we're wrapping things up. I'm going to take off this mask I've been wearing because I'm done killing people today. And I no longer feel possessed by the spirit of Michael. Because we've been talking Halloween, and guess what, people? Halloween ends. We're done. We're going to give our final thoughts here.
Halloween has ended.
Halloween has ended. Go home. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay
November.
Here. Yeah. So, yeah, Halloween ends. Any thoughts on this, David Gordon Green? Or
for my final, well, I wanted to talk a little bit about David Gordon Green's career. It's very interesting to me because he can, just when you think you can kind of pigeonhole him, he changes completely genres of what he's focusing on. Where he started out as an indie drama director, and I liked some of his early movies like All the Real Girls, what's that one called? Snowflake?
Snow Angels. George Washington.
Yeah. And then he moved into like stoner comedies, right? Pineapple Express, worked a lot with James Franco and Danny McBride. Yeah. Pineapple Express was the best one of those. But I did like his stoner comedies. And then he's done like 5 movies in the last like several years that are like, I don't think anyone has seen. He got back into a little bit of indies, some weird movies that I didn't realize he even directed. And then he took on this Halloween trilogy, having never done horror before, and it was just like, I've got an idea for Halloween. Of course, he's directed a bunch of TV also with Danny McBride, like Eastbound and Down and The Righteous Gemstones and that kind of thing. But just a very hard career to kind of put in a box, right?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
And I think he does like a twee Wes Anderson, Jacob, I would say, and then became something different.
Some of that indie sensibility to these movies with the character-focused drama of this. Like, there are some moments I like. I just wish I liked kind of the characters more. It might have worked for me better. Like in the beginning, like when they're riding on their motorcycle, like it feels very like, you know, indie movie vibes.
This one, no. You guys aren't remembering the characters of the past one. Do you remember the kid getting babysat in the first movie, the little black boy?
Yeah.
The funniest part of that movie.
Kid's awesome.
And then the gay couple, Big John and Little John.
Yeah.
In the second movie,
yes.
The best part of that movie. The character work is always excellent.
Even the husband and wife pair. We see the wife in this in a wheelchair now, but great characters.
Yeah, I guess, you know, looking back at it, maybe I was too harsh on kills compared to this one, honestly.
That's how I felt after Last Jedi seeing Rise of Star Wars. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, and there were some character moments I liked, and the humor of it all really worked for me. A lot more than this movie where it's like less humor, more just it's very serious and very taking itself very seriously. And I guess, again, it comes down to the mixing the lowbrow with the high. Like, people want the popcorn thriller kill scenes and everything, but also you're trying to put this subtext into it, and I don't think the melding of the two really works that well in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have a problem with the Corey performance, I think, as much as Colin or a lot of fans. Everyone's hating this, and I think that works for me just because I got Michael on a rampage and kills. So, like, I'm not expecting that. I'm fine to see what's here. And again, it's a little rushed, but I'm like, this is kind of fascinating. If Michael's just the shade, this evil thing that's out there, and then Corey is like becoming evil through whatever machinations, that's a fascinating thing to explore with a Halloween movie where Loomis is running around, what is the nature of evil? You know, it's like, I don't fucking know, dude. So that's very Halloween to me. But if you hate that character and you wanted Michael, you're going to hate it.
Yes.
But I don't know. I enjoy it, I think, more than a lot of people do.
I think it's taking some big swings, and I respect it for that, because I like when movies do try different things. Unfortunately, it doesn't always pan out. And I think sometimes when you take big swings, you don't hit the ball. And that's kind of how I feel about this movie, where it's like the character just didn't really work for me. I didn't understand. The transition felt rushed to me. His whole arc felt rushed. He wasn't likable to me to begin with, so he just became more unlikable to the point where I was like, I just want this guy to die, and I want to see Michael Myers.
I like their tag team stuff a lot. Like, I think that was cute. The first time they reveal it, where it's just Corey, and then you think the lady's going to go out the front door, and then Michael's like, nope. I'm like, this. But
then he gets so cocky that he's like, wait, I'm better at this than you are, old
I've done
man.
it one
Give me
time,
your mask.
Grandpa.
Right.
I've always been better.
The folly of youth.
If we're fans, what are we saying here? So there's the shape. What's Corey? The shit stain?
The shark.
Yeah. The
The
shark.
shart, the shape in the shart.
Yeah, that's the sidekick duo.
Ah!
And again, I can't get behind the his life is getting better. He just got a new girlfriend. Like generally, you don't become a serial killer when your life's actively getting in the process of getting better. And it just feels like the arc doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
Just a,
The writing is, I mean, truly schizophrenic.
it's rushed.
Look,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know,
Here's
guys.
Where I'm coming
Yeah.
from, I see everybody complaining, and all I can think is, do you watch horror movies? Like 85% of horror movies are mid. Like, admit it. They
Yeah.
fucking are, right? So you're expecting too much if you want this to change your world. I get it if you wanted more kills and it's a little weird. Have you ever seen a horror movie, including 80% of the Halloween movies? They're pretty fucking rough, even if they're goofy and fun. They're not airtight scripts. Like, what do you expect?
Yes, but now that being said, Mike, I think having the title Halloween, that's what ruins us here, brings it in. If this had been called
Yeah.
The Tunnel Man, I would like, this is a fine movie called
Right,
The Tunnel
right.
Man.
Behind the eyes, right?
Oh, ooh, a killer's eyes.
Yeah, ooh, there you go. The killer's eyes end, right? But yeah, I guess the
Yeah.
legacy of Halloween, and again, that first film being one of the perfect examples of horror
A perfect
cinema.
movie.
Yeah. I guess that's where these sequels should and are often held up to a higher standard. So I hope next we do get anthology like number 3, Season of the Witch. Just call them Halloween and finally do the anthology thing,
Yes.
Yeah.
And one other point you said you had wanted to bring up pre-recording.
Oh, yes.
Our buddy John Carpenter, he gets a phone call for these. He doesn't have points and deals in licenseship for the name Halloween or for getting remakes of Halloween. Only way he gets paid is when they ask him to do this music. And Cody Carpenter and John Carpenter did the score of this film.
Yeah, and I'm downloading music for this, to do the podcast and stuff. And I'm like, dude, the score, just like with Kills and stuff with John and Cody, it slaps. Like, the score is really good for these, I'd say. I mean, Jake, what do you think about the score?
Yeah, I like the score. It's John Carpenter, and he's
Carpenter.
It's one of the highlights
he's
of
good
this trilogy, I think, is having that. But do you have any thoughts
He
on?
says he can't do it anymore. It's too fast. The time's too fast. But it sounds good in this. So
Pass the torch to Cody, right? But Jacob, do you have any thoughts on that idea that because it's a Halloween sequel and Halloween's like the greatest, horror slasher ever made, that's why maybe people are expecting so much out of these sequels?
If this movie had been called Tunnel Guy or
A Killer's
Eyes of a Killer, would it be okay? Are we just mad because it's a Halloween movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it wouldn't work if it was just some random. If you introduce the Corey element into it, I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
What if this was a
It's
Hellraiser
just the
thing?
babysitter murders.
No, and it was The Adventures of Corey, right? And then they were like, let's make this a Halloween movie, Pinhead style. And they're like, oh, we'll just fucking shoehorn it in. Like, this does feel like it could have been another script. I don't think that's the case, but it has those hallmarks.
It's the babysitter murders. It's the original screenplay of Halloween. You guys said it. Jacob set up the whole premise of this podcast at the top, which is David Gordon Green loves Halloween. And that is actually what's wrong with this trilogy, is that he maybe likes it too much, where he gets so in his head.
Yeah.
He flips stuff around and he goes like, Halloween, the babysitter murders. What if the babysitter committed the murder? It was wrong. He was wrongfully this, but it twists him. Society twists him. Like Michael, you can just see it in the right.
Yeah,
he's trying to overthink it.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I think I think Rob Zombie did the same thing, but it's like,
yes,
John Carpenter has always said in interviews, and I love John Carpenter interviews because he's just so kind of matter of fact and frank about how he feels about things. But he's just like, he's just like a blank slate, essentially. Like, he's like of pure evil. There's no explanation. Don't try to explain why the way he is, which is what so many sequels are trying to do. I respect, looking at it in a different way and trying to explain. That's not what John Carpenter wanted to do. That's fine. There's different angles to it. I think David Gordon Green is a huge John Carpenter fanboy, obviously, with all the homages. And I was reading, like, he actually sent a copy of the script to John Carpenter and was like, "Hey, do you think this is like too Christine?" And John Carpenter, probably looking up from his playing Destiny on Xbox, and is like, "I don't really care."
Yeah.
Seems fine to
He's
me.
aware of it. David Gordon Green is
Yeah.
aware of that connotation.
Oh yeah, I think it's a
Wow.
deliberate homage, not just to Halloween, but to John Carpenter's larger body of work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So,
All right, maybe I like this.
who did it? Yeah, is it Snake Plissken? You know, is it
Yeah,
Corey or is it
I
Michael?
don't know.
Right. And of course, we have
Here's
the
a-
Season of the Witch. We didn't mention the titles being
Yes.
blue, and there's I sent this image in our group
Yes.
chat of how the titles match up to the first three Halloweens matching up with these trilogies.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
and I keyed in on
Halloween
that
Kills, Halloween
from the
Ends.
first two, and I was pleased that they continued it. And their titles kill it. It does feel like the original movie.
Yeah,
But
I think he nailed certain aesthetic points of this movie. I think he did really well.
I think Colin nailed it down though when he was saying, like John Carpenter and these guys. It's like he's just evil. He's just evil. There's no explanation. And everybody since has overthought it, including David Gordon Green. Everybody
Exactly.
since has just overthought it, and that's why he even didn't like the sequel that much. He's like, John Carpenter himself is like, I don't know, I was kind of drunk and shit. I don't know. We just fucking wrote it, but I don't like
I
it.
disagree with you, John.
Yeah.
But Mike, and I want
Everyone
both your
overthinks
opinion,
it.
but
Yeah.
how do you feel then of the final lines of this movie are a voiceover from Laurie finishing her book saying he wasn't the boogeyman. He wasn't pure evil. He was just an old man, blah, blah, blah. He was physical and he's gone now.
I think it's a different take, and I think it's okay to want to try to explore why he is the way he is. I want to just talk a little bit about John Carpenter's. So the era when John Carpenter was making movies like the 80s, there's been a lot of talk about recent horror movies, elevated horror, like A24, Hereditary, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're so more kind of blatant about subtext and like what they're actually about. And someone actually asked John Carpenter about elevated horror, and he's like, I don't know what that means, first of all. And they kind of explained it to him. He's like, I just like good horror movies. Like, movies are, of course, have subtext and are about things, but John Carpenter's movies, the movie itself should never be outpaced by the deeper meaning. Like if it's not entertaining, if the plot's not good, it doesn't matter what the subtext or what the themes are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of modern horror, which I like a lot of modern horror, are so kind of didactic in like what they're about. It's like, this is what it's about. And it's like, it leaves no room for like interpretation for the viewer themselves.
Right.
So that's kind of just a larger discussion, but yeah.
Putting the cart before the horse almost. Like people are still making YouTube videos of who killed who in the thing, right? Because there's still so much to figure out with a movie like that, or discussing the original Halloween. Yeah.
And to the grounded point of now, when we have our Nope conversation, none of us is arguing what we think the film is about. Like Jacob's saying, it's pretty apparent. Really, the conversation you're having with yourself is, how far was it pushed? How much imagery, how much symbolism, how much thought is that creator putting into it? Whereas something with like the Escape from New York, it's like John Carpenter hates the government and thinks that we're moving towards fascism, but that's not what that movie's about. That movie's about Snake Plissken on an adventure. And it's like, that's what movies should be.
John Carpenter grew up watching 50s sci-fi and westerns, and is like, a good story is always more important than the deeper themes. So he was very workmanlike in that way, and that's how he made his movies. Nope, I think, is a great example because it's a movie that is about something, but it doesn't sacrifice the being a good movie for that. If you look at something like Men, the Alex Garland movie Men, that's so didactic of like, this is what this movie is about. And I'm not saying it's a terrible movie,
himself.
But it's just become that. And I like Alex Garland a lot too, so it's just hard to critique him too much, but at the same time, you know what I'm saying?
Can themes supersede the narrative to a degree? Yeah, right. That's the thing. And then meanwhile, you think about Halloween original, and he's got a guy standing next to a bush in Pasadena, guy smoking a cigarette right next to the camera, and it blows. It's like, we don't fuck it. This he's evil.
They've got
action.
A bag of leaves they painted brown, Mike, because they're filming it in California. They have to keep blowing the
and they have to
leaves
pick
down
them
and
up after every
getting
take.
to use them again.
And Carpenter understands what makes an enjoyable, what makes a good movie. He doesn't try to overthink everything. And I think I like movies that are a little more open-ended about what they're about, and it allows interpretation for the viewer, allows something to chew on after the movie's over. Be like, and think about it,
Yes.
Not a ton to chew on with at least Halloween Ends, I'd say at this point, then, if we're going to bring it back around.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Entertaining enough, like Colin said, though. The only good timeline, Halloween 1978, Season of the Witch, and Stop. Those are two separate timelines, actually. So, yeah, just 78 period, done. Over now.
Yeah.
It's almost John Carpenter's fault. If Donald Pleasance had looked down and the body was there, none of this would happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Dang.
Maybe.
That's true.
I think due to the popularity, they just would have been like, oh, but he survived and now he's still doing stuff.
You don't think it would have just been 3 immediately, just right into these anthologies or whatever?
Hey, I'm just going to do a different one, yeah.
It's possible, but I think it was so popular once it came out that people wanted more Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm with Mike. I want the next ones because let's ask what is a Halloween movie after this? I guess I would want it to be an anthology. My favorite part of this entire movie, I'll be honest with you guys, that opening Blumhouse title that they have revamped, I thought that was awesome, Mike.
Yeah.
It stunned me and scared me. The fact that they are calling their shot to be like, yeah, we're the studio that brought you Get Out, Jordan Peele's first movie. We're huge. We'll include some of that. We'll include Michael Myers. We'll have the fucking Purge girls like walking around. Because if you look, that series has made $1 billion, and I guarantee those movies are made for like $2 million, Jacob.
Right.
So just to say, Blumhouse of it all, that's awesome. I wanted this movie to end with it saying Halloween Ends, and then Freddy and Jason style, we're seeing the claw and Jason goes to hell. I wanted like
to leave it more open-ended.
Friday the 13th Rises. No, I wanted Blumhouse to call their next shot, dude.
But Jason lives.
Next big
Halloween
thing we're
ends,
getting. Yeah,
Jason
exactly.
lives.
Well, they did.
True.
They had that Nightmare on Elm Street remake with Jackie Earl Haley. I think they could do with other franchises. But you're talking about Blumhouse.
Yeah.
That I wanted to circle back really quick because Blumhouse, it's interesting if you compare Blumhouse to like A24, similar markets at times with the horror market, but going for very different audiences. Where Blumhouse is like doesn't care like if something's lowbrow, like they'll take any cheap horror movie and distribute it if they think they can make money. And
never sex though. Always just violence. These Halloween movies are rated R, but there's no nudity in it like the first Halloween movie. They usually lean towards the PG-13, make that cash.
But they know how to make
dates.
they know how to make a
You and I are
dirty,
huge fans of Happy Death Day. I love a Blumhouse horror movie original.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just that's part of a larger conversation about this elevated horror, which I don't like that.
What is A24's take on Michael Myers, versus this kind of thing? Yeah.
He brings you to a Midsommar. There's a bunch of Michaels.
Right. Well, we've already got the Texas Chainsaw, A24 Texas Chainsaw, right, with X and those movies. Which I haven't seen.
That's right. Yeah. I've only seen X, need to see Pearl, but I guess if Halloween ends, will they buy up licenses? I could see, because again, I said at the very top of this, it seems like the franchise that was in the strongest position pop culturally of the big classics. But now, if it's over, all right, there you go.
Well, I was reading an article before this, like I said, where they were talking. It was Jason Blum, and he was saying, "Well, I don't know about the future of Halloween, but this is the end of Halloween." Released from Blumhouse. So it's
we
the
had
end
a
of this
3-picture
trilogy.
deal.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm
Mike,
sure they'll make more movies.
Do you know David Gordon Green's next venture, Mike?
I don't know. What?
This is kind of maybe the next then of what it is. He's doing a Lego sequel for Exorcist. He's gonna bring back the original cast and make a new Exorcist movie for Blumhouse.
So he's just doing this now. But like I said, his career in the last couple of years is so weird. Like he made this movie, Our Brand is Crisis. Has anyone seen that? No, of course not.
Oh, he made that? I've seen Prince Avalanche. I know what that is.
Prince Avalanche, Joe Manglehorn.
I have seen Joe.
Goat.
Oh, I have not
Stronger.
Dude, I hate
what are these movies?
So I have not seen Manglehorn. I've seen Stronger because I love She-Hulk. I love Tatiana.
I have not even heard of this movie. So
it's a Boston bombing movie. It's the saddest.
The only link Well, I mean, that comedy career, I always have felt, comedy and horror, kind of the same genre. There's setup, payoff, at least timing wise. Like to know how to direct a joke, you know how to direct a scare,
Right.
tension, build up, payoff, that whole thing. So that skill set transfers over, but he does seem to have like a wide spectrum of genres and stuff that he's dealing with. So I don't
Can't
know.
pin him down. Can't pin him
Jack
down.
of all trades, master
No.
of none, did not match this trilogy, but boy, we had fun. Halloween
Yeah.
makes me want to be rhyming, I guess.
There you go.
Yeah, well, we're doing the Leprechaun movies after this.
Hocus and Pocus or something.
No.
Just helps me focus.
Mike, I am upset we're not going to be able to talk Halloween again on this podcast for a while because I have to assume it's just not going to be quick.
No, I think it's going to be at least, 3 to 5 years probably before we get another one of these.
I would hope it's a period piece. I would guess just make
I have a pitch.
movies like Halloween 2. I would like to just see sequels of Halloween, I guess. What's your pitch?
So I had a pitch of Halloween. You just have an idea of evil popping up somewhere in the world. So I wanted to do Tokyo, right? Halloween night. Everybody's in a very crowded area. The police can't even track you because it's so fucking crowded, and subways and, whatever. There's an evil curse. You get a butcher knife, and then Halloween in the streets of Tokyo where the population density is too much to even... How do we track this person down? A very different kind of thing than a sleepy small town. Not exactly
Right.
Jason Takes Manhattan, but something like that. Just put
That's
the evil in a different place.
that's an interesting idea, Mike, if they did it on Halloween in like Tokyo, because I've been in Tokyo on Halloween and it's fucking crazy, man. Like,
Yeah.
people are partying in
Imagine
the
how hard it
streets.
would be to track somebody down running around with a knife,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
scary.
that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So take it. Yeah. Don't have to call it Michael Myers, but evil infects
Yeah.
someone. Like, because that's what makes Michael scary. What if someone just decided I'm going to murder for no reason? That can happen
Right.
in any neighborhood.
I mean, isn't
that's
that
what
what-
made the original scary, right? In your neighborhood, this
And that's
could
what the
happen.
copycats, that's what Jason is. That's what Freddy's a little more complex, where he's
Strangers.
telling you
dreams.
riddles or something and calling
He's
you
telling
bitch.
you riddles.
But Michael's just,
God,
yeah.
this guy appears in my dreams. He tells me riddles.
Yeah, but in your sleepy town, evil could just show up at any time, right? And it's like
Yeah.
the domestic
I guess next
horror of
year,
it.
for Spooktober next year, we'll have to watch all the Friday 13th or something and try another franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, you
We've
guys
done
did Texas
2.
Chainsaw. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hellraiser we did. So
any leads on what we're gonna be
Child's
tackling?
Play. Here we come.
Yeah, right. Jeez, I almost started Puppet Master the other day. I still got to finish my Halloween.
Please don't, Mike. I'm worried about
Never
you.
seen them. Never seen them. Anyway, any
Please
leads on what
don't.
we might be tackling next week? Or are we gonna keep it secret, keep it safe?
Let's keep it secret because I'm still
like
not
it.
sure yet, but it is going to be my spooktacular pick.
And then
once
we'll
sure, it's
again,
gonna be great.
Do the Halloween special
we'll
spectacular.
do our huge spooktacular where we've kind of been talking about in the what you sort of way as we do on these
Mhm.
podcasts, what we've been consuming all Halloween season long.
Mhm.
But go back and check out our other spectacular episodes, not even just these ones. Go back. We've got an awesome found footage episode, Evil Dead. I mean, just count it. Werewolves. We've
Yeah.
talked a lot of spooky stuff on this podcast before.
Yep,
Yeah.
zombies, all that, and excited for spooky season. So we've been doing the 31 spooky movies challenge too. So
Yes.
if y'all at home
Yep.
have been doing that, send your lists
I'm
or
doing that as well.
get them
Happy
together.
Halloween,
That's
everybody.
All right, host it out.
Yeah. Hit up at Normies _like_us, all that stuff, just like Mike said. But otherwise, we have been your hosts. This is. I just want to use like quotes from the old ones that I like. I'm Colin, but I'm the sheriff who says, "Oh, they stole a butcher knife and a mask. Must have been kids."
You ate a dog. I'm Michael Myers.
He ate a dog.
And this is Jacob Dies Tonight.
Jacob dies tonight.
Jacob
dies
tonight.
tonight.
I looked in his eyes and I saw the most evil eyes I've ever seen.
Devilishly handsome. Couldn't resist.
Cross-eyed idiot.
Ah man.
Bye.
Star cross-eyed lovers. Bye.